WNO breakdown, we have JB versus Achilles Rocha. So JB, you guys might have seen him from thousands of hours of training footage with me. He's probably one of my main training partners. Most people don't know who he is yet, but he's very, very good in the gym. He hasn't quite reached those heights in competition yet, but to give a perspective, he did have quite a close match with Giancarlo locally here in Austin. So that was pretty impressive. That was prior to the ADCC that Giancarlo won, and it was ADCC rules too. So they had a really tough match with Giancarlo. JB super hard to pin, super hard to submit. So I think this one's going to be a fun one because Achilles is going to come out like the crazy teenager he is, obviously inspired by his insane father, Wagner Rocha. Achilles had some big wins. He's done very well in tournaments. He's faced off against J-Rod. I remember J-Rod had some problems with braking mechanics, so he couldn't finish Achilles, but he kind of did control the match, kind of dominated the match, but it was a tough match for Jay. In more recent times, Stanley Rosa broke Achilles, so hopefully Achilles' leg has healed up from that. Achilles is probably too tough for his own good. He's one of those guys that goes out there and he really, he's got a lot of pride on the line, so when people have him in a submission, he'll kind of like flirt with not tapping. He definitely takes some injuries. Much braver man than myself. Someone gets something ripping on it, I'm tapping, you know, who gives a fuck? But this will be an interesting one with him and JB. I think the match will be dictated by who gets on top. And I think, although Achilles is pretty physically imposing, JB is a better wrestler. So that's the way I kind of see this one going. I won't give too much away about what JB's good at, because obviously that's going to be giving Achilles Rocha a potential game plan here. But expect an exciting match, because Achilles crazy, and JB is tough to submit, tough to pin. Healy's here visiting from Absolute MMA, Lachlan Giles Gym in St. Kilda. She's here with her man, Ben Hodgkinson. We had another athlete on the team, unfortunately break her leg skateboarding. Funnily enough, that happened to Ben Hodgkinson too. Don't skateboard. If you're doing jiu-jitsu, that means you have no athletic ability at all. Don't do difficult, dangerous sports. They're gonna result in injury, gonna result in time off the mats. If you ain't 13, you're doing jiu-jitsu, please stop skateboarding. But yeah, Healy's stepping in to face Helena Crevar. Obviously, very, very difficult match. Helena's 16, but I mean, probably one of the best women in the sport already, right? So she's got a tall order to overcome here. But again, she's been training hard. We believe in her. This should be an exciting match. Nicky Ryan versus Rene Sousa. So obviously it's a special occasion. The Olympic Games happen more often than Nicky Ryan competes in grappling matches. So this is really quite a spectacle. And the dangerous thing about taking on someone that competes every 4 to 5 years is that you have no idea what grappler is going to come out, because you can't really watch tape of old matches, because he could be a totally different person. He could look totally different. His game can totally change in that time. So that's really tougher for Rene to study sort of tape for this one, because again, there isn't a lot of tape. I think Nicky's total matches on BJJ Heroes would be under 12 matches. So again, Rene just has to prepare pretty broadly here. But for Nicky Ryan, like, we've trained with Rene B. He's come in here. He's definitely a friend of ours. I coached him on the Who's Next reality show, and he definitely impressed me on there. My opinion of how good his grappling is definitely boosted from the show, because he even had a really close match with Jansen Gomez, where it was quite a bit of back and forth. And I remember at the time thinking that would be a very difficult match for Rene there. But yeah, he definitely put up a great performance against Jansen. Obviously, Jansen just won Black Belt Worlds, beating Tynan Dalpress. So yeah, super cool match. Rene's pretty dangerous. He's pretty good all-rounder. I've actually hung out with him quite a bit. I think he's a former school teacher, but now he's full-time jiu-jitsu. Obviously famous for the buggy choke. He buggied J-Rod, and then that inspired J-Rod to pursue the submission, and really J-Rod's obviously hunts it. He's obviously very famous for it now. So Rene definitely inspired J-Rod to do that. He buggied Jay on the Who's Next show. How I expect this match to take place, I think as good as I think Rene is and as much potential as I think he has, Nicky Ryan's still sort of like that prodigy that started at 14. He's already beaten some really tough guys. He's obviously had a lot of injuries to overcome. Luckily, I think he has sort of a physical strength and athleticism advantage in this match. So I think his body should hold up pretty good here. Obviously, if you have some niggling injuries and you face off against some explosive monster, you definitely are on the side of caution because you're worried about that guy injuring you. I don't think the threats Rene poses are in that sort of vein. So I think in that sense, Nicky Ryan should be able to control this match. I think he should be able to win the wrestling exchanges. He should be able to win from bottom. And if Rene pulls, he should be able to pass guard and avoid Rene's dangerous buggy choke. Again, you don't know what game plan Rene's bringing. Rene trains with 10th Planet and both with JT Torres. JT Torres being one of the greatest no-gi competitors of all time. So I'm sure JT will have a very solid game plan for this match. So we got Haisam Rida versus Felipe Pena. Very interesting match. And I think I mean it in a sense of like, I look at Felipe Pena's position in the sport as an all-time great. Haisam Rida is a very dangerous up-and-comer. He's obviously famous. Everyone knows Haisam, but he has nowhere near reached his potential, whereas Felipe Pena he's already accomplished so much. I'm not saying he's on the end of his career, but he's already established himself as such a big name. So in my opinion, I'm very curious as to why Felipe would take on a match such as Haisam Rida. Like when people offer me matches, I say, like I want the easiest, least dangerous, most famous opponent. Whereas Haisam Rida, I sort of look at it on the other foot. I say, wow, this guy is so dangerous and yet not too well established yet. So in my opinion, if I was in Felipe Pena's position, those would be the matches I try to avoid. You have to give Felipe Pena a lot of advantages here. You have to give him, most importantly, an experience advantage. He's competed against everyone in the sport, all of the big names, all of the most dangerous names. He's obviously beaten some of the best guys we've ever had in the sport. He's an ADCC absolute champion. Haisam doesn't have those accomplishments, but as you saw, Haisam is so dangerous. You saw him take on Cyborg at the last ADCC first round. Cyborg would have been a massive favorite in that match. Haisam Rida submitted him very quickly. So again, although Haisam's up and coming and still such a raw talent, he is so dangerous. You have to be so careful against him. If we go skill for skill, I think Haisam has a bit of a physicality advantage. He probably has an advantage on the feet. In terms of bottom position, if Felipe pulls, Haisam is very difficult to get a hold of and he passes a great distance. You almost have to concede something to get control of him. He clears grips very well. Very similar to Nicky Rod. If you pull, very hard to get a hold of him unless it's on his terms. So how I see this match going is I definitely think Felipe's going to wrestle a bit. And if Felipe pulls and he can't get anything going, I think he will stand up to wrestle. And I think some of the match will be dictated largely by who's able to get the takedown on the feet. I hope Haisam goes out with self-belief and confidence and takes it to Felipe Pena, obviously trying to forget about who that legend is standing in front of him. Because if he beats Felipe Pena, that's massive, massive for his career. So we've got Crelinsten versus Dante Leon for the 155-pound strap. You look at this match, Dante's been much more active. Ethan's, I believe, his recent biggest win was against Fabricio Andre. That was a match that was set up for him to lose. All of the media attention before it was going to Fabricio Andre. There was so much hype. Flo will make it a documentary series on it. Obviously, Flo doesn't necessarily want any particular person to win, but it's going to be better for him if the person they're hyping up wins. It's better. It's the same as MMA. You know, they're trying to build stars here. Ethan sort of killed a bit of the hype train of Fabricio Andre in that match, proving that you can't really count him out. I know a lot of people did count him out before that match. But yeah, he obviously proved how dangerous he is. I think this match is kind of in the same vein. I think a lot of people see that Dante's much bigger. He's been much more active lately. He is more accomplished. So I think a lot of people are counting Ethan out in this match, but Ethan has pathways to win. I won't talk, again, too much about his pathways to win because that could potentially be giving up the game plan here. But both Ethan and Dante do have historical weaknesses in certain areas, and I imagine both of them will be seeking to take those paths to victories. But yeah, I think this one should be one of the most exciting ones. I think if anyone gets a good position in this match, it's not going to be a quick finish. Like Ethan, as you can see from his EBI history, his back escapes and his armbar escapes are very good. Dante has great back takes and great arm bars. So two of Dante's best submissions Ethan's won many, many tournaments where he's had to start in those submissions. So Ethan has great strategies for those. What'll be interesting to see the wrestling exchanges here. I don't imagine either of these guys is going to pull. I definitely don't think Dante is going to pull. So the wrestling exchanges are going to dictate a lot of things here. Obviously, if you pull, the guy has to engage your guard. If two guys wrestle and you hit a clean enough takedown, you bypass the guard. So that's definitely something to think about in these matches. If you're talking about how dangerous each of these guys' guards are, wrestling would be a great way to bypass the dangers of those guards in hoping that you get the back or land side control out of any of those takedown exchanges. Looking at the entire card, I would say this one's probably guaranteed to be the most exciting match. I do predict that there will be a finish. I just don't think it'll be very fast. And I think one thing's for sure, both these guys have incredible gas tanks. So it's going to be a scrap from the opening bell until a submission or potential judge's decision. Guys, obviously I'm just covering B team people here today, but I want to talk about the main event because I have faced both of them. I had a close match with Meregali, and then I was obviously wrongfully robbed of a decision by the referees against Kaynan Duarte. Kaynan receiving 11 penalties when he definitely should have received at least 15. This is a bad blood match. These guys don't really like each other. Meregali, I mean, honest, most people don't like Meregali. It's the truth. Brazilian fans aren't a massive fan of him. American audiences don't engage with him because of the way he speaks very similar to Gordon. Personally, any personal conversation I've had with Meregali, he seems like a nice guy, a cool guy. He's just trying to find a voice in the sport, trying to market himself better. However, it is funny. Mr. Authenticity himself does sound like his teammate, Gordon Ryan. The only next step would be to bleach his hair, and we have our own version of Gordon. These guys have faced off in the past. I believe Kaynan was saying they might be 2-2 against each other. I definitely distinctly remember Meregali finishing Kaynan, I think it was at Brasileiros in the gi. This match will be very interesting. Kaynan is pound for pound the strongest human being I've ever felt on the mats. This guy's an absolute tank. I know when we finished the Fight Pass Invitational event, Kaynan was there in the corner of Felipe Pena. We tried to get him to come out and have a few drinks with us. The man was on a mission. He was dedicated. He said, absolutely not having an early night. I'm focused on smashing Meregali. So, I mean, that's going back a bit of time now. So that man is dedicated to the cause here. If we look at both guys' styles, right, Meregali doesn't have anywhere near as many paths to victory on Kaynan. If we think about Kaynan's vulnerabilities in no-gi, it's leg locks. He has been submitted heel hooked by Lachlan Giles, Cyborg, Tim Spriggs. Meregali, we haven't seen him demonstrate any offensive leg locking skills yet. Again, he could have picked up those skills. Obviously, when I roll with him, when I compete against him, I felt he had some very good defensive awareness for the heel hooks. I was hoping it would have been much easier to catch his heel. Kaynan, on the other hand, although he has those vulnerabilities, we saw his match against Mateus Diniz where he just ran through Diniz and ended up getting a knee bar out of the saddle cross-archie position. So we know he has that danger. And you saw in that match, Diniz is obviously very strong. Kaynan looked like a gorilla ripping on the knee bar there. That's very scary. If we look at advantages, Kaynan, you have to give him the wrestling advantage here. I don't think Meregali will choose to wrestle with him. And if he does choose to wrestle, he's only going to be a few hard collar ties away from pulling guard. That's where it gets interesting though. Meregali is a very, very difficult guard to pass. He uses his length very, very well. So I imagine the game plan would be for Meregali to pull, look to sweep and get on top and stay on top. I think that's his pathway to victory, would be to sweep, remain on top and try to pass the rest of the match. Kaynan, though, again, he has a great guillotine. He has heavy passing pressure, even though it'll be difficult to utilize that against Meregali. I think his wrestling's better. I think, generally speaking, his submission game is better. In no-gi, he's proved to submit better opponents than Meregali. So I think this is a massive, massive test for Meregali, but I think Kaynan, you got to give him the edge. If there were betting, if we could bet big money on this match, you'd have to favor Kaynan, even though he would be the betting favorite here. The most important thing about this match is if Meregali loses, the social media uproar. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm going to enjoy the most about this match. Even if Meregali wins, there's going to be some crazy social media stuff. So that's the reason to tune in, fully experience the banter after the match. Lastly, we're going to be there vlogging everything. You know, like if there's another Galbao slap style incident, you bet you're going to find it on the B Team channel. If Meregali attacks another employee of Flow Grappling like he did UFC Fight Pass, you better believe we're going to have that. So make sure you tune in to the aftermath on the B Team YouTube channel. Obviously, if all of our athletes lose, there's going to be some technical difficulties. Don't expect a vlog. But guys, B Team YouTube channel, please subscribe.